everyone, I'm here today to review This Is Where It Ends by Marieke Nijkamp. I gave this book 3.5 stars and I read it back in January of this year, and I just want to quickly say as a disclaimer that I got this book free from the publisher via NetGalley in return for an honest review. I'd been highly anticipating this book for quite some time, and I got it back around August sort of time last year, and I kept putting off reading it and putting off reading it because I knew I couldn't review it till January. And so when I finally got around to reading it, I was so overly anticipating this book, and I think that did take away a little bit of the enjoyment for me. I'd perhaps hyped it up a little bit too much in my head, but it was still a great read, and let's get into the nitty-gritty of the review. First of all, I just want to say that the cover, I think, is just absolutely stunning. It really says a lot about the actual content. It strikes you, it stands out, and I think it just helps set the scene almost in a not too graphic kind of way. This novel is about a school shooting, and obviously in places like America that is something that just happens far too regularly in this day and age, and it's really sad that we're now at the point where we can write fiction about this, and I'm sure that a lot of people can identify with what happens in this book. This story gives you a 54-minute insight into what a fictional version of this sort of event would feel like to experience from different points of view. And this obviously shows how different people's experiences vary in this sort of situation, and how different people also respond to being involved in this sort of situation, because this sort of situation can bring out the hero in people. Let's quickly get the negative points of this book out the way, and then we can just focus on the amazingness, wonderfulness. I think one of my biggest problems with this book was that I just didn't actually care enough about the characters. They'd be in these like really terrible, life-threatening situations, and I found myself not actually... Obviously I cared, but I didn't care in the sense of I was like, oh no, what's going to happen to this person? Are they going to die? Are they going to die? Are they gonna... Like, I was just like, oh dear, they might get killed. And obviously that isn't the ideal. You want to be able to connect deeply with the characters to fully experience the emotion of this sort of topic. I mean, a book where children are getting shot at and killed should really, you'd think, evoke some sort of level of emotion in you. You'd expect to cry when reading this type of book, and I sadly didn't. It also just all felt a bit unrealistic at times. I don't really want to give any sort of examples because I don't want this to be a spoiler review. This is very much a non-spoiler review, but I just... Obviously different people are going to react in different ways in these sort of situations, and as I said before, this sort of situation can bring out the hero in people, but some of it just didn't ring totally true with me. And I think it was more a case of, if this had happened 1 or 2 times, fair enough, but there were quite a few times in this book where I thought, why would you do that? That's not realistic. No, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. And I was just getting so annoyed with myself. So now on to the more positive parts of this book. And I think one of the major positives for this book for me was that it enlightened me into what it must be like for people who find themselves in this situation, and how terrifying it must genuinely be. And it was just really eye-opening as much as anything. I also really enjoyed having all the different viewpoints, so I could experience something as terrible as this through many different perspectives, and just see how terrifying it must be from all angles, both inside and being in the situation of being shot at and seeing people die, versus being outside and wondering what's going on inside. And I just thought that the different viewpoints worked really well. And it wasn't just that you got different viewpoints, but you got different viewpoints at the same time period. So while someone was doing something, you learned about what someone else was doing at that exact time, and then you'd move on to the next viewpoint and you'd know what that person's doing at that exact time. And I just thought that was such a clever way of doing it, and it really just made the book that little bit more special, I think. This book was a fantastically fast read, and it was really fast paced, and it kept my attention from the very beginning to the very last page. And so if you're looking for a quick but very different and somewhat topical read, then this book is probably definitely going to be for you. I think my main sort of thoughts after reading this book were basically that I enjoyed this book a lot, but it could have been even better. And I think that's the real sad thing, and that's why it didn't get that 4+ stars from me. Because 3.5 is still amazing, but it could have got more. And I think that's just a little bit sad as much as anything, that it was almost there, but not quite. But yeah, I highly recommend this book anyway. I think it's really topical, I think it's a really important read, and I think it's just really enlightening and an important read that everyone should try and pick up. So thank you very much for watching this review. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more bookish reviews and content from me, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye!